In his book, Victim F, Aaron Quinn describes his helplessness in the face of the intensity of his interrogation. He says, quote, "How can anyone withstand this type of pressure? I now have the full force of law enforcement, the FBI, the Vallejo police, browbeating me to admit to something I didn't do. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but it's clear that in their eyes, I'm guilty. They are the judge and the jury, and they've already made up their minds." But it's Aaron's lawyer, Dan Russo, who sums it up best. Nobody in fucking North America is going to believe this story. I'm Laura. I'm here with my best friend, Marina, and this is Grim.
I love to swear, so I can get behind that.
Yeah,
that lawyer's announcement.
He actually said that in the documentary, and I'll quote all this stuff in a second. But he said it in the documentary, and it was perfect.
I bet you he hit that F.
Oh, he did. It was crisp because he's like got that New York.
Yeah, nobody's gonna fucking believe this.
Oh, it was so good, and he's right. No one did. It's starting early with the cats.
Finny.
You know, you all love the cats. Why don't you come take them? I will put them outside for you, and you can have them.
There are days when I'm working where I consider putting Iggy in the garage.
Yeah.
Because I can't take it.
Yeah.
It's so much. He just screams at me.
Yeah, that's enough. Okay.
Finney's making an early entrance.
Yeah, great. And what you're also not going to believe is how many Patreon shout-outs we have. Woo! Buckle up. I would suggest if you don't like the shout-outs, just go like, I don't know,
2 minutes?
I think we might be 3 or 4 minutes.
All right.
I don't know. Because we are settling in for some shout outs.
And if you want your own shout out, go ahead and go subscribe to Patreon right now and you'll be on the next episode.
Exactly. All right. We're going to start out strong with Gracie B.
Gracie B!
Gracie B, we love you.
Love you so much.
Thank you, Gracie. Love you.
My cousin had a mini Yorkie named Gracie, and that's what I'm picturing.
That's...
Gracie B, you're so cute.
That's so cute.
You're so
I just
cute.
want to pet you. Oh, you're so cute. Okay. This is going to be really long if we comment on everyone.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Alex H.
Alex H.
We love you, Alex. Thank you so much, Alex. We love you. Woo. Okay.
Remember that Disney movie, Disney show with the Incredible Adventures of Alex, where they turned into a silver puddle or something like that?
Alex, The Incredible Adventures. What? Alex Mack.
Okay, but didn't it have a longer name?
It was not The Incredible Adventures of Alex Mack.
Okay.
Alex
H.
Okay. Alex H. We love you. Woo. Natalia P. Natalia, we love you, Natalia. Thank you so much, Natalia.
So one time at band camp, no, I'm just kidding.
Alessandra V.
Alessandra,
we love you, Alessandra.
Thank you so much.
Elizabeth O.
Elizabeth
O. We love you, Elizabeth.
We love you. Thank you so much.
Anastasia P.
Anastasia P.
We love you. And I will make a comment there because I have seen your comments on Instagram. You have some great thoughts. I have been enjoying them because you've been like basically live streaming as you watch the episodes.
I love that journey for us.
I've been enjoying it.
Is she watching them or listening to them?
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe she has a really good imagination.
Maybe she closes her eyes and visualizes all of it.
You're welcome. All right. Madison.
Madison.
Madison. We love you. Lillian R.
Lillian R.
We love you, Lillian.
We love you. Thank you so much.
Stephanie L.
Stephanie
L.
We love you so much. Thank you.
And Jeanette B.
And Jeanette. We love you.
It's like I can predict what sounds you're going to make, and my voice just, it's not even voluntary. I just have to make that noise.
Why am I picturing like the French Revolution and a guillotine? Is that like a very
Antoinette, that's why.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you so much.
We love you. Karen S.
Karen S.
We love you, Karen.
We love you. Thank you, Karen.
That was a mid-woo. All right. Michelle M.
Michelle
M. We love you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pink Deedle.
Pink Deedle. Pink Deedle. We love you. We love you, Pink Deedle. Thank you so much.
Charles B.
Charles B.
Charles, we love you, Charles. Thank you so much. Lauren B.
Lauren B.
Thank you, Lauren.
We love you so much. Thank you.
Catherine A.
Catherine A.
We love you, Catherine.
Thank you so much.
Tiff. We love you, Tiff.
Tiff. So like share.
Yeah.
Tiff.
Single name.
Cher.
Yeah.
We
Madonna.
love you.
We love you.
Thank you so much.
Emily C.
Emily C.
Emily,
Woo-hoo.
we love you, Emily.
We love
Thank you so much. Woo,
Thank
woo.
you. Thank you.
Joan W.
Joan
Woo.
W.
Joan, we love you, Joan. Woo,
Thank you
woo.
so
Woo,
much.
woo.
Get it up. Woo, woo.
Emily L.
Emily.
What was so funny about
I
that?
was like hungover from the last woo woo. Emily L. Woo woo.
You had a woo over.
I had the woo woo hangover. Woo, Emily L.
Emily,
we love
we
you.
love you.
Thank you so much.
Vanessa G.
Vanessa G.
Vanessa,
Thank
we
you so
love
much.
you.
I think of Vanessa Hudgens.
Okay.
I'm on a Disney train tonight.
That's an H, not a G.
But you said
I said Vanessa G. Okay. In your voice, you heard Vanessa Hudgens. Hudgens? No.
Hudgens.
Hudgens.
Vanessa G. We love you.
Vanessa,
Thank
we
you so
love you.
much.
Karen M. We love
Karen
you, Karen.
M. Woo-woo.
And this Karen sent us a very, very sweet message about how we reminded her of her late friend. And we just want to tell you how much that really touched us and made us both cry. And it was really sweet.
Very moved. I sent it. I screenshotted it and texted it to both Laura and Oh My God. Oh My God did not get the message, but Laura did.
Did anyone get the iOS 18 update? And that's where it puts your cursor in the
I hate
to
that.
line. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how aggressive it was. But it was very sweet. We love you.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
for
you
your
so
sweet
much.
message. And rounding it out, Abby.
Abby!
Woo,
Woo,
thank you, Abby.
We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Woo, I got a woo after the woos. That was a lot. That was a lot of woos. Thanks for sticking in there. I was not watching the time, but it felt like a few minutes.
The whistles go woo woo.
Only in the morning. Okay. So this is part 2 of the Gone Girl case.
Part deux.
I want to thank again Morgan H. for this suggestion. I really had no idea what I was getting into when I took this case. A reminder of my sources. I watched American Nightmare on Netflix, which I highly, highly recommend. And the book Victim F, which I quoted in the intro, also highly recommend. And then I found an online magazine, The Atavist, who did a bunch of direct interviews and did a really lengthy article called A Crime Beyond Belief, which had then further detail, which is why I tried desperately. It's not 3 parts. It's only 2 parts. But buckle up because I didn't make it 3 parts.
Yeah,
so it's long.
it's a lot.
So
That's
there's
I wish you could. It's a hefty packet of papers.
A packet of papers.
A packet of papers.
Peter Piper pie papers.
Papers.
So I just said what I wrote in my notes without looking at my notes. So moving on. In part 1, I told you about the strange and traumatic home invasion and Denise's subsequent kidnapping. Mm-hmm. I also went through Aaron's horrible interrogation, followed by Denise's surprising return. Most of the perspective in part 1 was Aaron's, so now I want to tell you about what Denise went through.
Ooh, yes.
Back to the night of the abduction.
Okay.
Denise had just been taken out, still blindfolded with the taped swim goggles, and put in the trunk of Aaron's Camry. Though she can't see, Denise is using every one of her other senses to burn in her memory what's happening. As the car begins to move, she can still feel the comforter underneath her, and she hears the driver turn on the radio, putting it up loud. She wonders how long she'll be in there, where he's taking her, if he's really only taking her for 48 hours, or if he's going to kill her. And then, almost as quickly as they took off, the car stops. Suddenly, the trunk opens, and the speaking man grabs her and shakes her, yelling, "Do not speak, do not scream. You are going to make this a lot harder on yourself." She hadn't made a noise. She's perplexed, but then she realizes that the song on the radio kind of sounded like screaming.
What?
And so he must have thought it was her. He then slams the trunk closed, and they're on the move again. After a while, they stop again, this time to switch cars. She still can't see, but she can smell salt in the air, and she can tell they're still near the ocean. He cuts the zip ties to make her more comfortable, his hands shaking. She figures they must be somewhere no one can see them, because it's mid-morning, and here he is, all in black, struggling with a blindfolded woman in the trunk of his car.
But they took them at night, right?
He came in at like 3:30 in the morning, so this is like 5 or 6 in the morning, somewhere around there. He moves her to the trunk of the next vehicle as promised. It's smaller than the Camry's trunk, and when he takes off, the sound of the motor makes her think it's some kind of sports car. She can tell they're getting on the freeway. She can hear other cars passing them and them passing other cars. It's the Monday morning commute. She thinks, who would know, as they think about that email they need to send, that they're passing a car with an abducted woman struggling in the trunk. And I actually, after writing that, and she alludes to something similar in the book, I was thinking that on my drive to work and home. It was just like, you literally never know what's going on, and it really freaked me out.
Unless you remember they taught you to like kick out a taillight.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if she felt more scared to do that after getting yelled at with the radio. I don't know. And she can't see, remember. She's got the goggles on. After a few hours, she isn't sure, thanks to the sedatives. They arrive at what seems like a long gravel driveway. When the trunk finally opens again, she gets the sense they're at their destination. Again, she thinks they must be somewhere no one can see them. He tries to lift her out of the trunk and carry her to the house, but he stumbles and they both fall. Unable to pick her back up, he drags her into the garage, putting the comforter over her, saying he needs to get more stuff from the car. Denise is left to imagine every horror film that she has ever seen until he finally comes back and brings her into the house, still blindfolded with the blacked out goggles. He brings her into the bathroom and tells her to shower. He explains that he doesn't want her bringing in any particles from the outside world that may identify her.
What?
Mm-hmm. Remember he had said a bunch of weird stuff when he was talking to Aaron and all that.
Well, also his cameras melt if you turn the heat up too high in the house.
So the particles, you got to get rid of the particles. He says, you will keep your blindfold on during the shower. When you're done, you're to stay in the confines of this rug. Knock 3 times on the wall so I know you're finished. I will close the door and give you privacy. I do not want to have to dehumanize you any more than we already have.
I'd be like, but there's particles under my goggles. How am I supposed to clean them?
After she's done, he follows through with his promise and comes in to get her. He brings her into a bedroom and tells her that's where she'll be staying. He also tells her that he had provided food and water. They're on the dresser, and that's also where he put her glasses. She's equal parts perplexed and horrified at this. She is still wearing the blacked out swim goggles, so she really doesn't need glasses, and horrified because it's yet another indication that he had been watching her, and knew that she wore glasses, what they looked like, and where they were.
Who were they supposed to kidnap? Andrea?
Mm-hmm. Wow, good memory.
Does Andrea wear glasses?
I don't know, but I think they had watched Denise, in the house, and they thought Denise was Andrea.
Oh, okay.
So if they saw Denise,
her
I think at least.
Okay.
Yeah. So then he tells Denise he's going to be leaving for a bit. He says, while I'm gone, a man named Jay is going to be watching over you. If he speaks, don't be alarmed. He sounds like a typical black guy. More than likely, he won't need to talk to you. He'll just check on you occasionally. It's in your best interest not to give him a reason to talk to you. Denise obeys, listening to her environment to get a feel for where she's being held. She can tell it must be a standalone house since she can't hear any noises through the walls. Actually, she hadn't even heard anything when they were coming inside. No cars, nothing, so she assumes they must be somewhere remote. After some amount of time, the speaking man is back. Denise has no real sense of time, but he takes care of her basic needs with regular bathroom breaks, food, something to drink. As he spends time with her, he tells her about his organization, saying he and his associates developed an underground company that an outside party could hire to fulfill mainly financial and sometimes personal debts. As he gives her more and more details, she becomes increasingly concerned. If he's telling her all of this, does that mean he has to kill her? But he reassures her that everything he's saying are things he's authorized to say.
And he can deliver menacing pies if she decides to talk about.
Just saw somebody's comment.
That it was probably poisoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Who would eat a random pie that shows up on their doorstep?
Someone who likes pie. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
One time. No. No, I have an actual story.
That's actually appropriate because there's apple pie in that. Okay.
When we had our insurance claim from the flood, we had to stay at a condo that was on the other side of town.
Yeah.
And while we were there, I'm not kidding, the Easter Bunny came to our condo and dropped off chocolate lollipops. And we were like, who done did this?
Yeah.
And nobody did it. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and throw these away.
No.
Nobody we knew had sent them.
So it's not Halloween candy that's poisoned. It's actually Easter candy.
It is. Okay. Got to watch out for that bunny.
Listen and learn, my friends.
It's an evil bunny.
Okay, I don't know how to transition out of the evil bunny.
Anyway.
So the speaking man goes on to say, we are all highly trained. Some of us have a military and technological background. We have intensely studied the psychological effects of victims in situations like this, so we know what to expect. We've even practiced on each other. We have all unexpectedly attacked each other in the middle of the night. It's terrifying, I know. But with you, we got it wrong, and it's my fault. It's the first mission I was the lead on, and I was in charge of collecting intel in preparation for it. I'd been in Aaron's home many times in the last few months, and I thought you were Andrea. I knew that you were engaged because I found an engagement card in Aaron's desk where he keeps his mail. I also saw mail addressed to her meaning Andrea. The last time you stayed over last week, we were there, outside Aaron's bedroom door, ready to proceed.
I hate this.
We were going to do it that night, but were called off because there were too many police units on the island. This confirms Denise's suspicion that they had been watching her and Aaron. And remember how Aaron had been paranoid that someone had been in his house and he'd seen those lights out in the field? I would assume that that was this group.
Wow.
So go with your intuition, people. The speaking man continues. If I'd only looked in your purse and checked your identification last night before entering the bedroom, we would have left and this never would have happened to you.
What a fuck up.
This again frustrates Denise, but beyond it resulting in her being kidnapped instead of Andrea, it has even worse implications. The speaking man says, we have a problem. One of us is going to have sex with you.
What?
This mission was intended for someone else, and since you're not her, we don't have anything on you. So one of us will have sex with you, and it will be recorded. If you do not follow our instructions, and if you attempt to speak about this, it will be released on the internet. It has been decided that I will have sex with you. It was my fault for not getting the correct intel. This is more of a punishment for me. You did nothing wrong. I just proposed to my fiancé 2 weeks ago, and this recording will be used to make sure that I stay on track with the mission. So it has to look consensual, like we're a couple.
Wow.
To this end, he tells her about himself like some twisted first date. He says he was in the military in the Middle East and has PTSD from it. These psychological difficulties are why he's doing this kind of work instead of a regular 9-to-5. He even mentions that a brother he's close to recently underwent surgery that cost a few $100,000 and he needs to help him financially. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing this.
Okay.
Yeah. Denise can barely focus on what he's saying. Her stomach drops when he says, it's time. I have to go through with it, but I promise I'll be gentle. I don't want to make this worse for you. The only way she gets through it is by dissociating. She feels herself lift away from her body, and all she can think is how her heart breaks for that woman. Aww. But as she imagines her limp, compliant body combined with the goggles, she realizes that there is no way that's going to appear consensual on tape.
I was just going to say, how's it supposed to appear consensual with goggles?
Not at all. But afterwards, he says, you can take the goggles off when you're alone in the room now. I left some toiletries on the counter for you. I know this has been a lot on you. It's the least I can do. Just remember, we'll know if you try to remove the covering on the window. When I come back, be sure to put the goggles back on and turn away before I enter. She thinks he's conditioning her. After raping her, he now allows her this freedom. Regardless, once he's out of the room, she finally takes the goggles off. A distinct pleasure after having them on for 12 straight hours.
Oh my gosh.
She takes another shower, and afterwards he gives her more of the sedative, and I imagine this was almost a relief since it probably helped her sleep.
Yeah.
Dramatic page turn. The next morning, she can hear him cleaning. She looks around the room. As he had indicated, the windows are barricaded. The door is locked. She's trying to find a way to escape, a weapon, but nothing. There's no options. He knocks to enter, and she quickly dons the goggles. He tells her he needs to give her more of the sedative because his associates are on the way. He wants her to pretend to be asleep since they're not as nice as he is.
Oh, God.
A short while later, she hears a car approaching. It actually sounds like a truck engine, and the vehicle is higher off the ground than the car. I also want to just take a second to acknowledge how badass, for a variety of reasons, but just the fact that Denise, was listening and had the presence of mind to, detect what types of vehicle and, her surroundings, because she's thinking, if I get out of this, I want to be able to give police every detail.
Right.
Just incredible. Doors slam and someone or multiple someones enter the house. There is a heated, tense conversation. The speaking man then enters her room again, alone. He tells her, it's been decided. We're going to need to record a proof of life. So that's when she does the recording that her loved ones heard.
Yep.
But we now know why she sounded so calm and strange.
Right.
She's sedated.
Yep.
Time passes again. It's now the afternoon on Tuesday. The speaking man tells Denise that they've long lost contact with Aaron. This must have been after he realized that Aaron wasn't going to return any calls because the police had put Aaron's phone on airplane mode. The speaking man says either he went to the police or did not want to follow through with what I asked. And Denise panics. Does that mean he's going to kill her? But the speaking man reassures her, Even if Aaron went to the police and there's a lot of media coverage, it doesn't worry me. It'll be good PR for the group. It will show how we can be successful without harming the captive. Minus the fact that he just raped her. That would be harm.
That, and it's not like they know this organization's name. It's not free marketing.
Exactly. What do they say? Any news is, any marketing, any PR is good PR or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
You know
I just can't.
about?
Yeah, I can't think of the word. Like, I can't think of
Usually
the
you
phrase.
help me out here.
I know.
Nope. Okay.
Any media coverage is good.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's definitely what it is. All right. He says the plan is still to release you. Even if it came down to that, if that's what the others decide, I won't go through with it. I have an escape plan for me and my family that I would use before it ever came to that. Denise relaxes, but the feeling is fleeting. Her worries about how the previous night's rape looked on camera were justified. The speaking man tells her that the footage wasn't good enough. He says, again, it needs to look consensual.
What a piece of shit.
Like they're having an affair. Absolutely. Right. And I think what's even worse is all these comments, oh, I hope you're comfortable. It's harder on me than it is for you.
Right.
Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Even if you're, which he is, mentally unwell, like, fuck off. Speaking of, in a sick attempt to make the experience pleasant for Denise, the speaking man pours them each a glass of wine. She quickly gulps her wine, trying anything to help numb herself from what's about to happen. This time, instead of keeping the goggles on, he says he'll tape her eyes shut so it looks like they're just shut. She prepares herself. On the documentary, when she talks about it, she says she thought to herself, you're not going to break me. You're not going to see me crumble and cower. Let's just get this fucking over with. Oh, and I gave myself just goosebumps right now because you have to watch the documentary. She is unreal. She's amazing. But this time she isn't able to dissociate. What is the difference between that? This is really going to make a very long episode if I ask you that. But
dissociate versus disassociate?
Disassociate probably means literally to separate from things, but dissociate must mean the
internally.
Mental. Yeah. Anyway.
I've never compared and contrasted.
I haven't either. I say the wrong one. But anyway. This time she isn't able to dissociate, so the only way she survives is by imagining it's Aaron. And this just contributes to her feelings of being ashamed, completely undeserved afterwards.
Also, I agree with you that disassociate probably means to separate, and dissociate means like you go inside yourself.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay. Now that we've gotten to the bottom of that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You saved me on that one. Afterwards, he sedates her again, and then it's the next morning, Wednesday. At some point, he plays her a video of her dad on the news, the one where her dad is urging her to stay strong. She hears her father say, if she sees this, I want her to know that the family is there, we love her, and we're not giving up.
Oh.
Despite her resolution not to let him win, this is what finally does it. This is what breaks her down. The speaking man attempts to comfort her. He puts his hand on her back and says, it must feel real now.
Ew.
All she can think is, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yep. Then he says, it's time to go home. They get in the car and he gives her a sedative. He says he can't drop her off in the Bay Area because there's just too much of a police presence. So he's going to bring her down to Huntington Beach where her family is. She falls asleep, but is suddenly awoken when he slams on the brakes. He has hit another car. Just a fender bender, but he has to stop. Her heart thumps. Maybe this other driver will see her. She's in the front seat this time, but she looks kind of normal. Instead of the goggles, she still has the tape on her eyes. But before she can even fully think through this hope, he's back in the car, saying, it wasn't anything. No damage was done, so we can keep going. She slips back under, and the car comes to a stop again, this time gently and intentionally. The speaking man says, since Aaron went to the police, at some point you're going to have to speak to them. But there are two things you cannot say to them. One is that any one of us is in the military. And two, and even more important, is that you cannot say that we had sex. We will always be watching you, so if we find out you've said anything, it's not just you will come after, it's your family. And then he says, again with his fucked up approach, I wish we could have met under different circumstances. You're an incredible person.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. As he lets her out of the car, he says, count to 10 slowly. Do not remove the tape until you know I'm gone. We'll be recording you as I drive off, and we'll see if you do not obey.
So weird.
She counts to 10 and then finally takes the tape off her eyes. She sees the street sign Utica and a flood of childhood memories come to her. This is a street she's walked down hundreds of times in her life. She's home.
Oh my gosh.
but her mom isn't.
Oh, that's right. So she's at the
So
house.
she's home, but she's not. If you recall,
Right.
at the end of part 1, or somewhere in there, we talked about how she ended up. Well, I'll get to it in a second. But her father gets the voicemail.
Right.
So we'll talk about that. So she tries the door at her mom's house. It's locked. She leaves all her bags because remember, the speaking man had packed all her bags. He gave them all to her. So she leaves all of that on the porch and walks until she sees someone working on the street and asks to use their phone. That's when she calls her dad's cell phone. When she gets to his house, it's only about a mile away. She finds, was that Finney? I'm starting to know their voices. She finds that he isn't home either. And that's when her neighbor sees her and lets her in. And the neighbor actually originally thought it was Denise's sister. She didn't even realize it was missing Denise. So that's when the police arrive, which should be a relief, but then they immediately have her on the defense. They they ask, "Did you ever ask him to let you go?" She's like,
Are you serious?
what? It gets much, much worse.
Oh, no.
She tells them in detail what happened. She realizes they're recording her, and she says she may need a lawyer, but they keep asking questions. Is that legal? Is it because she's not officially under interrogation?
You have to assertively ask for a lawyer. You can't say, I think I might want a lawyer.
Which is, I think, what she
you
said.
have
Yeah.
to say.
Ugh.
I want a lawyer right now.
Which, of course, she's not to mention the ordeal she just went through. Mm-hmm. But I think, she's not, it's not like she was just arrested. So she's I would be thinking, why the fuck do I need a lawyer? I shouldn't need one.
Yeah, I'm not sure that even in that situation, I'm
Right.
not sure I would be I should lawyer up right now.
But that's why she is so fucking smart. So she is just, remember, this woman has a doctorate in physical therapy. She is so smart. Because I think she was something fishy is going on here.
Yeah.
I feel, I need help. So she keeps asking for her other family. So not just the neighbor, a lawyer. They ask if she's been sexually assaulted and remember the threat of her captors. So she says no. The officer asks if she thinks it'll happen again, meaning the kidnapping, which is kind of a weird question anyway. But she says, yeah, if she talks too much, something will happen. It's now been an hour since the police arrived and began questioning her, and she keeps asking for her parents. They keep stalling, saying they just want her to talk to a detective who's coming. At one point, an officer says, "You're the victim. We're treating you as a victim. I mean, you're the victim." A little questionable. As I told you in part 1, Denise's father, Mike, has listened to his daughter's voicemail and calls 911 to make all the connections. And then he and Jane call as many of their family in Huntington Beach as possible. Finally, Denise's Aunt Jody and cousin Nick arrive. Nick happens to be a recently graduated lawyer.
Oh, good.
And his focus is intellectual property, but it was actually helpful. He had just graduated because he just took the bar. He just was fresh on everything.
Criminal law.
Exactly. And so he also is amazing, had enough confidence and balls basically to stand up to the police because that's half of it. You could know all that and just be too afraid. And he was like, no, this is unacceptable.
It's kind of funny because the only thing that law school doesn't teach you is how to be a lawyer. So there's that.
Perfect. That's what I've got you for, to teach me that. But fortunately, he's like, this is not okay. He says, I'm going to take Denise. And then right at that time, the detective and CSI finally show up. So the CSI officer quickly takes pictures of Denise's wrists, and he almost walks away before she stops him, pointing to the circular impressions from the goggles on her face. And her general impression is that the whole thing seems half-assed and rushed, as if they're just going through the motions, but not actually gathering evidence. They don't even take the shoes or the water bottle that she told them that the speaking man gave her.
Wow.
After the tech is done, Denise and her family go to leave, and the officers tell her that they have a Vallejo detective on the line who proceeds to offer her immunity. And she's like, excuse me? Immunity from what?
Yeah, exactly.
I was just fucking abducted. But Nick handles it and basically says, don't call us, we'll call you. And they finally get into Nick's car, and she's brought to her aunt's house where she is finally safe. But safety is relative. Nick calls their uncle, who's also an attorney and more experienced. Her uncle says, Denise, here's the thing. The police simply don't believe you. We're trying to figure this out, but it's clear we need to get you a criminal defense attorney.
Wow.
You absolutely cannot speak to law enforcement anymore. You cannot give them any more statements. You already provided one to Huntington Beach Police, so any additional statements can and will be used against you, especially if there are any discrepancies between them. You can't talk to anyone else about it right now either, not even your parents. The only two people you can talk to are Nick and me because our conversations are protected by attorney-client privilege. I'm going to try to get a hold of an attorney I know and get his advice on how to move forward. A fucking plus, uncle.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I'm thinking how disheartening that you get out of this situation and you're so thankful to be around the police and they're like,
yes,
do you want immunity for talking to us? And you're
literally.
Like, I don't understand what's happening.
I can't, and it's like, you know, she has just come from, like, she's probably still, the sedatives are probably still wearing off. She literally just got out of this abductor's car.
Right. I'd be like, draw my blood because.
Yeah, or anything. Like,
right.
just, yeah, like they didn't want any of that.
Even I would offer that up. And that's saying something. I almost passed out from my flu shot today, okay? Serious.
She's okay. So as much as she wants to talk to her parents, even on the phone, she really can't. Nick talks to the detective who had given the immunity offer. It turns out to be our favorite detective, Mustard.
Oh.
He tells Nick that the offer would only be given to Denise or Aaron, whoever accepts it first. Both victims, by the way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He says the story he heard is far-fetched and a hoax on both sides. He said Aaron's sitting in front of him now, so you need to make a decision. And he offers to bring Denise to Vallejo on an FBI plane. She takes a moment to talk with her new lawyer that her uncle set up. His name is Doug Rappaport. Fortunately, just like Aaron, Denise got a badass of a lawyer. Doug's wife had just given birth to their second child the day before, and he was planning to take 3 months paternity leave.
Oh my gosh.
But he was so moved when her uncle told him about what happened that after discussing it with his wife, good job, Doug, he agreed to talk to Denise.
Okay, quick funny story. So you said Rappaport, and I was like, why does that sound so familiar? And it's because there's the actor Michael Rappaport, and he actually stars in the video with those two attorneys who are like, what do? You shut the fuck up.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Full
so
circle.
we really
That's
brought it
good. I like
full
it.
circle.
I'm glad also that I had only written Rappaport, I think. I'm sure they said it in the documentary, but I didn't register. And I almost said Rappaport. But it's Rappaport, right? Okay.
I believe
now
so,
it doesn't sound like a word. Anyway, Doug tells Denise not to say anything else and to get up to Vallejo, but definitely not in the FBI plane. Mm-hmm. Denise and her family take the next flight they can find, landing in Vallejo at 9:30 p.m. This poor woman.
I know.
Who, like, should be able to, like, be comforted and, like, home or with her boyfriend or family or anyone. She's now having to catch a flight, which was a whole thing. I tried so hard not to include every detail. It's so hard. There's so many details.
It would be fine if she was doing this because they were taking the investigation seriously, but instead they're like basically investigating her.
They absolutely are, and it gets worse. So around the same time that she's on the plane, the Vallejo Police Department gives a press conference regarding Denise's return. I'm going to quote some of it. It's confirmed that Mr. Aaron Quinn and Miss Denise Huskins are in a dating relationship, and from this point forward, I will not refer to them as a victim or a witness. We also know that the statement Mr. Quinn provided was such an incredible story that we initially had a hard time believing it, and upon further investigation, we were not able to substantiate any of the things he was saying. Over the course of the last few days, if I can kind of put things in perspective, we've had over 40 police detectives from the local, state, and federal levels, and over 100 support personnel assisting in the investigation, working around the clock to help locate Miss Huskins.
Have you?
Not true, by the way.
Have you?
That is a tremendous amount of resources that, in my opinion, was wasted. I can tell you in the grand scheme of things that Mr. Quinn and Miss Huskins have plundered valuable resources away from our community and have taken the focus away from the true victims of our community while instilling fear amongst our community members. So if anything, it's Mr. Quinn and Miss Huskins that owe this community an apology.
I hope that they sue for defamation.
They sure did.
Yay!
Well, we won't get to that till several more pages, but they sure did.
Fuckers.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Denise meets with her new lawyer, Doug, and tells him the whole story, top to bottom. She's worried sick that he won't believe her. She, by the way, had not heard this because she was on the plane, so she hadn't heard this. She's worried that he won't take her case, and after she's finished, he steps out of the office to call his wife, who had texted to ask how things were. He simply says she's telling the truth and begins to cry. I'm going to cry saying this. He's so sweet. His wife gives him her blessing to represent Denise, even though he was supposed to be on his paternity leave, saying, she needs you more than we do.
Aww.
I'm like, really, I don't know why I'm going to cry. I'm just thinking of the desperation.
You're verklempt.
I'm verklempt, yeah. When he comes back into the office, he simply says, I believe you. And I just can't imagine the relief that must have washed over her. But again, her challenges are not over. She's still terrified to talk to the police about being raped. She did tell Doug, but she's terrified to talk to the police because of what the speaking man said. Doug says, he's just so amazing. That's what people like this do in order to have power and control over you for the rest of your life. You can't let them have that control over you anymore. You are safe. The whole world is watching you. They can't touch you. The choice is yours, but if you do speak to the police, you can't hold anything back or they'll use it against you. He's like empowering her and love it. So at 2 a.m., he starts making calls because she agrees. Doug says they need to give her an exam to see if she's been sexually assaulted. Mm-hmm. He calls Vallejo PD to get a sexual assault test, and they say that Denise has to come give a statement first, and then they will. Which, okay, all right. I don't know. She's a victim. Fuck off.
She's a victim, and also that's time sensitive.
Yeah, exactly.
So why don't you do the test first, and then you can get a statement.
They did it like in the middle. They like interrogated her some, and then did it. But she's desperate, so she agrees. It's now Thursday, March 26th at 10 a.m. Detective Matt Mustard, our favorite, and by the way, that is the same one who talked to Aaron, is the one that does the interrogation of, and I'm calling it that. It's not just questioning. They were interrogating her. They also bring in an FBI agent who has been involved with the case, David Sesma. Does that name ring any bells?
It does.
It should. That is the FBI agent who Andrea had an affair with before dating Aaron.
Oh.
Bit of a conflict of interest.
A little bit.
Because even if he doesn't know, like, if he didn't know Denise, he definitely knows Aaron and he knows, like,
right.
Yeah. But he doesn't mention it and Denise has no idea. And she goes through what happened. I'll read this. She goes through what happened, starting with the home invasion. It's the same story that Aaron told. She obviously hasn't been in contact with him and tells them every single detail she can think of the captor, the location, the assaults. And it not only must it have been horrific to live through all of that again, but thinking back, she did later find out about the connection, how invasive that would be. That is like literally the most vulnerable. I mean, she had to give every single detail. That would be bad enough to give anyone, but to have to give that, I don't know why that makes my skin crawl. Just awful.
Your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend?
Yes, that's correct. Yep. So instead of empathy, the agent's victim blame her, saying, did you fight back? Why didn't you scream? Fuck off. First of all, that's never, ever a response.
No, these are incredibly offensive, traumatizing questions.
Literally. Yep. And just like with Aaron, they assumed she was guilty of what, by the way, it's the hoax. That's what they think.
Right.
And they were just trying to find evidence to prove it. So then they take the break in questioning to let Denise take the exam. So not only has she gone through all of that, trauma, now she has to go take this exam. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Doug calls Amy, who's one of Aaron's lawyers, and they agree that Aaron and Denise shouldn't talk, but amongst themselves, the lawyers validate that the stories are consistent. After the exam, the nurses tell Denise that there is evidence of sexual intercourse, but don't indicate that it appears to be rape. And unfortunately, that makes sense because she was supposed to make it consensual.
And it wasn't aggressive. She was sedated.
Which is why I understand that they're looking for the physical evidence, but it's fucked up because you can get raped and have it not show up.
Right. It's consistent with the story.
Fucked up. Afterwards, she's called back in to be interrogated. Mm-hmm. So that entire thing is so fucked up. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting I'm giving you a lot of details, but reading the book and watching the documentary, your blood just will boil.
Yeah, this is a very explicit episode.
Yes. They emphasize that there are a lot of inconsistencies in her story and try to get her to admit that she has something to do with it. Doug is like, no, there aren't. There are no inconsistencies.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? And the detective is like, haven't you seen Gone Girl?
Oh, my God.
And that's the first indication that they have that the police genuinely think that this is the plot of Gone Girl.
It's not even close to the plot of Gone Girl, first of all.
So that is a movie. What do you think is happening?
It is a movie. That's like if someone gets murdered, you're like, listen, I've seen Halloween, okay? You're not pulling the wool over my eyes.
Literally, that's how they were acting.
Wow.
And of course, the media, and I am a little bit guilty of that because I called this the Gone Girl case, but that was for recognizability. But the media picks up on this because, of course, that's a great story. They're only getting the highlights, and they hear that press conference, and so they think that it truly is a hoax.
Oh my God. It's seriously not even close to the movie.
Exactly. So after all of the questioning, Denise finally reaches out to Aaron, wanting to see him. And this is a really special thing in the documentary. They talk about how nervous each of them was because Aaron is like, this is all my fault, which is not, but he's thinking it's all my fault. Denise is like feeling all that guilt from imagining Aaron and like that trauma. I can't even imagine.
That's tough.
Like she's going through all of that, but they wanted to be together and they had made such great progress on their relationship right before this. So both of them loved each other and wanted to make it work. But the lies in the media don't just piss off Denise and Aaron. They piss off the kidnappers, too.
Oh.
So remember our reporter friend, Henry Lee?
Yes.
The one who received the proof of life recording. So following that nasty press conference, Henry gets another email, this time with the kidnapper claiming responsibility and emphasizing that Denise and Aaron had nothing to do with it.
They want credit.
Oh, yeah. But
oh, wow.
And they're like angry that they're blaming Denise and Aaron. It's actually less about credit, and he's like mad that they're blaming Denise and Aaron, like in a weird, like protective way.
That's very bizarre.
Yeah. And he doesn't just say this in a couple sentences. He writes 9,000 words.
Okay. How many pages is that in a Word document?
I was actually wondering. I almost did that. Probably the length of this giant thing here. Among those words, he says that he speaks for the group responsible, that they're a group of professional thieves, more than 2 and fewer than 8 in number, who started out stealing cars but decided to try kidnapping for ransom to make more money. We fancied ourselves a sort of Ocean's 11 gentlemen criminals who only took stuff that was insured from people who could afford it. As he did before, Henry immediately forwards this to Vallejo PD, who also send it along to Denise's and Aaron's lawyers to share with them, but they don't respond to Henry, so he doesn't reply to the email. And the writer of the email is not satisfied with this silence and sends several more emails, which Henry then sends along to the Vallejo PD. And finally, after getting no response, the kidnapper says if he doesn't see a public apology from Vallejo PD to Denise and Aaron in the next 24 hours, they're going to do it again.
Oh my, what? Kidnap Aaron and Denise?
No,
or just
other people.
Oh my God. That is bizarre, first of all. He's like, here's my dissertation on
Literally,
our
on
crime.
riot. Yep.
Second of all, that is not what he told Aaron and Denise that they did. He said that they were like this high tech.
Well, I think that's how they started out, is what he said, is like they started with like this Ocean's 11 thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. And that is, if I were going to split this into 3 parts, that's where I would do it. But I will not put you all through that. I will keep going because now it's been 10 weeks since Denise's kidnapping. We're now in Dublin, California, which is 40 miles south of Vallejo. A call comes into police from a woman, 52-year-old Lynn Yen, who says men broke into her house. She's hiding in the bathroom. Her husband, 60-year-old Chung, is fighting with them.
Okay, so there was no apology.
There was no apology. No. The police are immediately dispatched, and they arrive to find Chung covered in blood, but he, Lynn, and their 22-year-old daughter, Kelly, are safe. The suspect ran away.
Whose blood is it?
Both, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, that is interesting. I don't know if they collected any of that. Huh.
I mean, maybe it's Chung's blood. I mean,
I think
they were safe. It doesn't mean he wasn't.
Yeah,
he was
that's true.
Unscathed.
I am unsure whose blood it was.
Okay, somebody's.
Chung is badass, though. Actually, both of them are. Lynn tells police that she and Chung had awoken to a flashlight and a laser shining in their faces. A masked man in all black was standing at the foot of their bed, probably beyond the footboard, if I were to guess. He had spoken, saying, "We have your daughter and she is safe." The man used a calm, soft voice to tell Lynn and Chung to turn over and put their hands behind their backs, saying he was going to tie them up. But when Chung felt the man touch him, he took a swing. That's the opportunity Lynn needed to grab her phone from the nightstand and lock herself in the bathroom and make the call to police.
I love this.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I love this journey for them.
So badass between the two of them. And then the intruder finally fled when Chung, who was fighting with him, yelled to Lynn to get their gun, even though they didn't have one.
Oh my God.
Just incredibly badass.
I really hope that if something like that ever happened to me, that I would respond in a very courageous.
I would be frozen.
Yeah. So fight.
I would be under my
fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah, I'd be under
freeze
my
is a
blankets.
thing, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what I do. Like when I wake up and think that I see someone in my room, I'm like, if I don't move, they can't see me.
Literally, I'd be under my blankets. Yeah, they're just so badass. So now, upon investigation by Dublin PD, they see that a window near the back door was open and the screen had been removed. Night Stalker vibes. Indoors, they find zip ties and a black wool glove. Out in the backyard, they found another zip tie and some duct tape, but perhaps the most significant piece of evidence was brought to them by Kelly, who gave them a cell phone she'd found in the hallway cabinet near her room, on a hallway cabinet.
It was Aaron's. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, right. It was David Sesma's. Investigators look up the subscriber of the phone and call. When a woman picks up, they ask if she knows whose phone number it is. And I don't quite know how that all worked. It must have been a different number. But she says, oh, yeah, of course. That's my son, Matthew Muller. Matthew Muller.
Is he?
Yeah, Matthew Muller. Well, he's an adult. Matthew Muller was born on March 26th, 1977. And this is all happening 2015. So he's an adult. Just outside of Sacramento, California, to parents Joyce and Monty. Joyce was a middle school English teacher. Monty was a school administrator and wrestling coach. Although Matthew was smart, earning a 3.8 GPA while taking the highest level classes, he had a hard time in school. He was in the high school band, playing the trumpet, and was in the computer club. In addition to being a quintessential nerd, he was introverted and overweight and bullied relentlessly.
Oh.
His parents divorced just before Matthew graduated from high school in 1995. Shortly after graduating, Matthew enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps. His goal was to lose weight and save up to pay for college. And he applied what he learned in high school. He played trumpet in the Marine Band. He started a nonprofit to teach locals in Japan about the internet while he was stationed in Okinawa. And he worked at a bilingual newspaper, which made sense because he was fluent in 4 languages, including Spanish, Russian, and German.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even fluent in English.
Same, obviously.
Yeah.
That's why we have a podcast.
I know.
You're welcome, everybody. He did end up deploying to the Middle East in 1999, where he was a successful Marine, earning 3 service medals, 1 ribbon, and being promoted to sergeant.
Wow.
However, it came at a cost to his mental health.
Oof.
For this, he was granted an honorable discharge. That's an important distinction. After returning home, he attended college, continuing to excel academically despite his challenges. He graduated summa cum laude in 2003 with a degree in economics focused on public policy. And he also found love. He had gone to Prague during college and met a woman from Kyrgyzstan. She returned to the U.S. with him and they got married.
Isn't that where Borat's from?
Very nice. I was going to say yes, but... Well,
isn't it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just wanted to say very nice. Okay.
It's Halloween.
Okay. I just wanted to keep going, but he was then accepted into Harvard Law. No big deal. Graduating with his JD in 2006.
Shit.
His focus all through law school and afterwards was working to support immigrants. He moved to Silicon Valley a few years later, passing the California bar, but Matthew was still desperately struggling with his mental health issues. He had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2008, and although he had received some treatment, it wasn't enough. He had taken some medication, but didn't like the side effects, and worse, he suffered alone. He didn't talk to his parents or his wife at all about what he was going through. He later said, "It felt like a weakness, something I shouldn't be troubling other people with." But he was experiencing increasingly disturbing delusions. When he was working at Harvard, he began to suspect that the government was tapping his phone and hacking his computer.
Oh.
He thought officials were after him because some of his clients had been accused of having connections to terrorists. He spent hours inspecting conduits on the wall that housed wires, which he tracked to a server room in the basement. Though he searched and searched for anything that could be a bug, he found nothing. Mm-hmm. As the delusions worsened, he saw a psychiatrist there in California who put him on Wellbutrin. This helped quell his suicidal thoughts, but it made it hard for him to sleep. So he often found himself awake when everyone else was sleeping. Sometimes he heard voices, like the time when he was tossing and turning on the couch and he heard a distant muffled voice. Half asleep, he thought the TV had come on. He heard voices again on subsequent nights, closer and clearer. And at first he told himself he was dreaming, but eventually he was forced to admit that the voices were there when he was awake. They were androgynous, almost robotic, and they didn't tell him what to do. They just kept up a running commentary, mostly about his faults.
So, okay. So
horrendous.
that's not
Awful.
from Wellbutrin, right? Like he has like schizophrenia
yes,
or something. Okay.
He definitely does. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it helped him being awake and having, not sleeping enough.
And actually, I don't know how old he is here, but interestingly enough, men tend to develop symptoms of schizophrenia around like 27.
I think that's right about where he must have been.
It's
I don't
so
have
bizarre.
exactly what year this was, but because he had graduated in 2006, this was a few years later, and he would have been just shy of 40. Oh, that's a lot different. But he would have been around 40.
Very different. But I cannot get over the things that your brain can do.
Yeah.
Like that someone could look at this wall right here and genuinely see it bleeding.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's
their
real to
eyes,
them.
Yes,
Yeah.
their eyes are seeing it bleeding.
Also,
it's crazy.
I have to rectify that. I had my math wrong. It was 30, so it is close. It was. Sorry, that's why I was looking kind of weird when you were talking about blood on the walls, because I was doing that math and realizing I was wrong.
Blank stare.
I just couldn't handle I could feel the comments coming. It was 30. Okay. Anyway, so he didn't tell anyone. So this, really, really suffering. Mm-hmm. He was worried they would think he was dangerous, crazy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
To pass the time when he should have been sleeping, he would often take walks in the middle of the night, causing several run-ins with the law due to him being a suspicious person. Fair. Mm-hmm. By 2009, he was so convinced that they were after him that he was worried he was putting his family in danger. He felt he had no choice but to run, so he traded his car for his mother's SUV because he thought his car was bugged, stocked up on food and survival gear, and disappeared.
I actually feel really bad even hearing these stories when people are this mentally unwell.
He needed so much help.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is not the first time we've said, oh, he was on medication and didn't like the side effects.
Oh, yeah.
And went off.
So bad.
And that is so shitty. Your choices are have delusions like this or have shitty side effects. Like, that's not fair. That's really unfortunate.
This is not one of those situations, but sometimes people that have symptoms that get medicated, they prefer the symptoms over themselves. What the medication does. They're like, I'll take the voices over feeling nothing.
Yeah, and that's what an awful rock and a hard place, Now, so he disappeared, but just 2 days later, he called his wife to say he thought he'd successfully shaken his pursuers and he could come home. They decided it would be best to have him stay with his mom. He went through a dark time, but eventually climbing out of it, getting back on medicine and going to work in 2011. But all was not well. He began staying in the office overnight, working feverishly. I'm assuming that's because he couldn't sleep.
Right.
His bosses told him to please stop, and this made Matthew think that they were spying on him and plotting against him. After working there for less than 6 months, he copied thousands of files from their network onto a flash drive.
Yikes.
You should definitely do that as a lawyer, right? That would be your recommendation. Installed a program that wiped his computer and sent an email announcing his immediate resignation.
Wow. Really, he should just do what the rest of us do and stay up all night and write podcast notes. That's come on.
It's much better for your mental health.
Yes.
The company, of course, thought he was taking the files to start his own firm.
For sure.
But he wanted to use it to prove that they were tracking him, and they ultimately dropped the case.
Oh, man.
Matthew managed to get another job at another immigration firm where he was initially successful, but the delusions returned. Things were bad at home, too. His wife filed for divorce in December 2012. Matthew's mother did what she could to support him. Matthew tried to climb back out. He actually founded a nonprofit that provided pro bono legal services for immigrants with mental illness. And if you forget for a second why we're talking about him, he actually seems like this brilliant, caring, albeit troubled individual doing his best to help those in need with whom he likely had great empathy. But just a couple of years later, in 2013, his law license was suspended for non-payment of dues, and just 2 years after that, he was disbarred in California after failing to show up for court several times and failing to file green card paperwork on behalf of a paying client. It really seemed like the wheels were coming off. In 2014, he was evicted from the apartment his mother had previously gotten him, and he moved with his mother to Mare Island, which is the island, the place that Aaron and Denise were. Mm-hmm. While living there, he became convinced that there was a cohort of evil, wealthy people living on the island, and that they were responsible for all of the evil in the world. He also continued his late night walks, and after being accused of being the Mare Island Creeper, he moved to his mother's cabin in South Lake Tahoe.
Okay, I'm just wondering if it's like just this one guy who's doing this crazy shit. I mean, go ahead and finish.
Big question mark.
Go ahead.
There, he essentially became a recluse, and that is really good, recommended for mental health improvements, right? Okay.
Yes, complete isolation.
Yes, and he is still barely sleeping. And so he filled his time by obsessively watching the Batman film series, and he entered a severe psychotic episode and created a nocturnal vigilante identity to fight evil. He wore a wetsuit and created tools resembling weapons from items like flashlights, laser pointers, dog collars, swim goggles, spray paint, and various toy guns, such as a Nerf like Super Soaker.
Oh my gosh.
He created a Robin Hood plot to kidnap evil, wealthy people for ransom to give to the poor, which he believed in his psychosis to be morally justified.
Imagine this mom getting this call and it's like, do you know whose cell phone this is? And she's like, fuck.
Those are some of the details that I left out, but the online article from the Atavist had a whole section. I think they talked to her on like her reaction. That's a really
like
sad.
She knew, she knew that something was,
absolutely. All in all, Matthew was very unwell.
Ugh.
So now back in 2015, Dublin police have gotten Matthew's name from his mother, and after learning about the previous reports where he was a person of interest in several break-ins and attempted rapes, they tell his mom that they just want to return his phone. Does she know where he is? And she says, of course, he's at my cabin in South Lake Tahoe, 4 hours north. Police immediately head up there. They barge in, guns drawn, shouting search warrant, and easily cuff him. Mm-hmm. He was quiet, no emotions, no fighting, just goes with them. They go back into the house, which is a mess. The door is barricaded with chairs, and once inside, they see a set of crutches, license plates, clothing, electronics, a massage table. Empty boxes are piled against a window, open bottles of wine, same, and cans of spray paint litter the kitchen counters. There's also a black ski mask, black duct tape, and mismatched black gloves. A stun gun is on a rocking chair. In a banker's box, there's more duct tape and gloves, along with walkie-talkies, a radar detector, zip ties, rope, and a device for making keys. In the bathroom are makeup brushes and a partly empty bottle of NyQuil. An open tube of brunette hair dye is on the sink near a disposable glove that has the same dye on it. In one bedroom, there are 3 more gloves, yellow crime scene tape, and on the bed, a spiked dog training collar.
This is quite the cabin.
Can you imagine? Like, because it's
like a horror movie.
They have they knew that there had been a break-in, but like that wasn't that crazy of a break-in.
Yeah.
Like nothing, even though we know that wasn't a good situation.
Right.
Like that was is there such thing, a regular break-in? But, the police have no idea. I keep hitting the microphone. I'm very animated.
Yes.
But they have no idea what they're walking
They're
into.
changing their mind. They're like, we take it back. It's not Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Marina was right. It's
police,
Halloween.
But remember, this is different police, so they don't even, they have absolutely no idea.
Oh, okay, that's
no
right.
idea.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me of that.
In another bedroom is a bottle of Vaseline, used paper towels, and a penis pump.
No.
They also collect flashlights, cell phones, hard drives, and several computers, including a laptop that had been stashed under a mattress. Outside, there's a white Mustang with Matthew Muller's ID in it, and though it's a stolen car. The car's GPS has a ton of addresses in it, including some in Huntington Beach. In the trunk, there's a black bag with what appears to be a torso wrapped in black fabric.
Torso?
I forgot you would react differently. It turns out it's a blow-up doll made to look like... That's why I was like nonchalantly reading that, but I forgot to read it with drama. Sorry. And anyway, there's a torso in the trunk. Moving on.
There's a torso in the duffel bag. Police just threw it in their car.
Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so there's a blow-up doll.
Okay.
There is also a nylon belt with goggles that have been duct taped. Significantly, a strand of blonde hair is attached to the tape.
Wonder who it belongs to.
But they don't know.
No, they don't.
This is not Vallejo PD, so they just wonder, is this person alive or dead? Because the people who Matthew broke into that generated this call, none of them were blonde.
Well, she's dead because her fucking torso's in the trunk in a duffel bag.
Yeah, they're like, it could be this person, but it's only the torso. We're really not sure. Meanwhile, Denise and Aaron are just, life is bad for them. They are still afraid of the kidnappers because nobody's been captured. Not to mention wondering if they're going to be charged and like arrested for this hoax. Life is just falling apart. The hospital where Aaron and Denise worked launched an investigation into Aaron. And that fellowship, remember in part 1, I told you that she was going back for a fellowship and was just advancing her career.
Kaiser with the rolls.
Yeah, yes, yeah. That fell through, and Denise is being attacked relentlessly on Facebook.
Oh my God.
Just
and it's
horrible.
It's all from this like incredibly mentally unwell guy.
Yep.
Doing this. Wow.
But with no support from the police. Like that would be bad enough, but they have the police being like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So they also found out what I told you earlier, which is that David Sesma, the lead FBI detective, actually used to date Andrea. Denise's attorney writes to the office of the inspector general, and the response is that they looked at it and found it unproblematic. Okay. Summing it up, Aaron says, it's just us against the FBI. Back to Dublin. They're trying to figure out whose hair this is on the goggles. Investigator Misty Karayuzu is assigned to the case. Misty is amazing. This was her first case, and the raid on Matthew's cabin was literally her first day.
Oh my gosh.
She came in and he was like, hey, you wanna go knock down some doors? And she was like, fuck yeah, I do.
Yeah.
She is extremely passionate about her work. Her friend had been sexually assaulted, and that's what made Misty become a cop. She said, I want to be the one that was the voice for these victims and prosecute the suspects and send them to prison for a very long time.
Oh.
So Misty digs into Matthew's cases. She learns that in 2009, the same year that he fled thinking they were after him, Matthew was named as a person of interest in an unsolved break-in that I'm going to tell you about.
Ooh.
A 32-year-old woman was sleeping in her apartment in Palo Alto when a strange man jumped on top of her. He appeared to be in his 20s and was white, tall, and lean. He wore a mask, black gloves, and black spandex-like clothing. The man tied her hands behind her back, bound her ankles with Velcro straps, and covered her eyes with tape. Then he gave her a choice: drink NyQuil, or be shocked with a stun gun, or be injected with what he called a bomb.
Ugh.
I don't want any of those doors.
I'll take the NyQuil.
I mean, same. When she opted for the NyQuil.
Yeah.
Yep. The man confirmed with her that she wasn't allergic to any of its ingredients before pouring the medicine down her throat. The intruder gathered personal information and indicated he'd use it to steal her money. At times, the victim heard the man whisper to someone, and she would later describe seeing a silhouette in the room, but she never heard a second voice.
Because he was talking to the voices in his head.
Maybe. She reported that the man tried to rape her, and she fought back. Also badass. You're also badass if you don't fight back, just being clear. When she made up a story about having been raped in high school, he stopped, saying he didn't want to victimize her again. Before leaving, he threatened to harm her family if she called 911 and mentioned that he had planted evidence to mislead authorities. Less than a month before that incident, a 27-year-old woman in Mountain View woke up around 5 a.m. to find a man on top of her. He appeared to be white and slim, about 6 feet tall, and wore tight black clothing and a ski mask. When she started screaming, he put his hand over her mouth and explained that he was a part of a group of criminals that had planned to steal her identity and wire money abroad. The man bound her hands and ankles and then placed blacked-out swim goggles over her eyes. She felt her hair catch in one of the straps. He made her drink what tasted like cough syrup before collecting personal information. At one point, he used her phone to send a message to her boss saying she was sick. Periodically, the woman heard him talking to someone, but she never heard or saw someone else. Eventually, the man told her, I have some bad news. I'm going to have to rape you.
This fucker.
And according to an account the victim later shared with Dateline, she begged him not to, and he relented, saying, I can't do this. I'm sorry about this. Throughout the encounter, the intruder was polite, the victim said. Before leaving, he advised her to get a dog for protection. Like, fuck off. How about you just don't break into my house?
Yeah.
The woman told Dateline that when she called the police, they initially suggested she might have had a bad dream.
What is wrong with the police?
I don't know.
That was the Vallejo police?
No.
No.
This is Mountain View police.
What's going on in California?
Get it together.
What's going on?
Ultimately, authorities concluded that the person behind the attack had also likely committed the one in Palo Alto. But Matthew was not named as a suspect in either of these cases, but Misty has him in her sights. She calls Palo Alto police and starts to tell them that they have Matthew in custody, and the Palo Alto detective cuts her off and says, I have had this guy's photo on my desk since 2009.
Oh, but they didn't have anything on him?
He goes,
oh,
I
my
know
gosh.
he was involved, but I can't prove it.
He must have been so excited.
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
and
my
helped a
gosh.
ton. And Misty's interest is peaked because of
Amazing.
those goggles.
Right.
But Tracy, the victim, had brown hair, not blonde. So she's like, there's something else here.
There's somebody else.
But it probably was Matthew. So Misty looks further into the white Mustang because they found that at the cabin. It had been stolen 7 months before in Vallejo. She talks to the registered owner, saying they have the car and it was involved in a home invasion. The owner says, have you heard of the Mare Island Creeper? In 2014, a bunch of students were being harassed by a guy who would peep in their windows, take photos, and then run away. Many nights in a row, the cops just aren't doing anything about it, so citizens take matters into their own hands and follow him home, realizing he lives on Mare Island, that he's ex-military, and he's a lawyer. Misty's like, check, check, and fucking check.
Yep.
They must be talking about Matthew.
They should have just gotten curtains.
Oh, it took me a second. Yeah, it would solve a lot of
It
things.
would help, yeah.
Get a dog for protection too.
That too, yep.
All of these incidents had been reported to the police, and although they never identified the person responsible, the Mustang owner says in March 2015, the incidents stopped. Right about the time of the Gone Girl case. Misty had not heard about this, goes and researches it, and instantly knows that it's Mare Island, the swim goggles, the connection to Huntington Beach, and then she sees Denise, blonde, and she knows. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps again because Misty's so fucking awesome. Misty is on it. She later said, I wanted to reach through the computer and give her, Denise, a hug and say, I got you. Misty calls Vallejo PD. No answer. She calls again. She is relentless. She just keeps getting whatever the equivalent of voicemail is.
Take the FBI helicopter over there.
Really? Well, so then she finally gets to a detective who's like, oh yeah, it's with the FBI. Like, we can't help you. So finally, Misty calls Agent David Sesma. She describes the similarities and he says, yeah, all right, whatever. Just send the information and we'll take a look.
Okay, take him, even if there was no conflict before, like it's being questioned, take him off the fucking case.
Yep.
Like, this is not hard.
He's fully involved.
Maybe you don't have to throw out the whole case because you're saying you didn't find it to be a problem, but just fucking take him off the case.
Oh no, he's fully involved.
You only have one FBI agent? You got one? That's it?
Apparently.
Hire some fucking more FBI agents.
You tell him.
My goodness.
You tell him.
Absurd.
So finally, Dublin PD does meet with the FBI. They show them all. They're like, you can have everything. Here you go. They see the water gun because they were actually not real guns. I don't know if I mentioned that in anything. Like all the pictures that like Henry was emailed, because in that 9,000 words were pictures of things. It was literally just a water gun painted black. They show a laser. They confirm that that's all the stuff that was sent to Henry. And it's not until Dublin PD shows them the goggles with the blonde hair that they're like, oh, okay, I guess you have a point here.
Wow.
So they called Denise's lawyer with all this information, and also now it's gotten out to the media, who finally changed their tune and acknowledged that Aaron and Denise were not lying. It must have been so crazy for Denise and Aaron to also put a face, because of course you know how the media goes. It's like, oh, this Matthew Muller. And because they never knew what he looked like.
Right.
It's not like they were like, oh yeah, that's the guy.
Right.
They literally never did it. And Denise said it wasn't until they played, like he had done an old interview.
Oh God, you heard his voice.
Heard his voice. Yep. So they and their lawyers determined that it's time for Aaron and Denise to hold a press conference of their own. Just before they're ready to go out, the affidavit for Matthew's arrest comes out, and they read it. In it, there are details about Aaron's and Denise's interrogations, including Aaron's lie detector test and Denise's sexual assault exam. Despite what the agent conducting the lie detector test had told Aaron at the time, the results were inconclusive.
Wow.
Most definitely not a complete failure, which we all know, like, if they
They're
tell
garbage.
you failed it, fuck that. Like, it doesn't matter. But it's just Aaron is infuriated. And when he was being interrogated originally, he had told the kidnappers that they were going to, or told the police the kidnappers were going to contact his phone to be on the lookout. And that's when he found out in the affidavit that it had been put in airplane mode until the next evening. And when they had taken it off, as we remember, they had found that 2 calls had come in. And in the affidavit, it said those were traceable calls.
Sloppy.
And present day, they were able to connect somehow, I don't know, to the cabin in South Lake Tahoe.
So sloppy.
So if they had monitored Erin's phone and traced those calls, they could have reached Denise sooner, possibly preventing her from being raped at least one of the times, if not both. Mm-hmm. So that's just infuriating.
And Chung would not have been attacked.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they also discovered, I don't know if it was in that affidavit or elsewhere, that, do you remember I said it sounded like it rained, but it was a drought?
Yeah.
He had used a noise machine to drown out his noises so that he could enter silently.
Oh,
Is
interesting.
That not, I don't know. I had to include that because is that not the creepiest fucking thing?
It is creepy. I thought that maybe he was like spraying a hose at the house or something.
No, he like used a noisemaker.
That's
Crazy.
so weird.
So despite these defeating and unbelievably frustrating findings, Denise and Erin prepare themselves for the press conference. In the documentary, Denise said, "The police refused to follow the evidence and the media all laughed along the way. I want to stand up there and look every damn one of them in the face while they learn the truth." I love her. I love her.
Oh my gosh.
Denise's attorney spoke on their behalf. He told the reporters that Denise and Erin were not just not guilty, they were innocent.
Right.
Today, the Vallejo Police Department owes an apology to Ms. Huskins and Mr. Quinn.
More than that.
Correct. But Vallejo police had no intention of apologizing. In fact, infuriatingly, they continued to refuse to retract their claim that the kidnapping was staged.
Okay, well, that you have to do. Well, legally, their attorney was probably like, you shut up now.
Yeah,
you don't admit
They're
anything
terrible.
because you're in
I
trouble.
know. It would be 6 years before the department would issue a public apology.
Wow.
More than 3 months after Matthew was arrested, he pleaded guilty no contest to felony charges of burglary, attempted robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon for the Dublin break-in.
What was the deadly weapon? Because didn't he have Nerf guns?
He did.
He saw a Nerf gun and he wants to paint it black.
Okay, hang on. So I have to call Marina out on this. Okay, so first of all, it was really good. It was really good. I'm almost giving you, it's not calling you out, it's actually giving you credit. Okay, so we had to pause for a second. You hopefully would never notice, but we had to pause for a second. And she was like, "Man, I really missed my moment when you mentioned Nerf guns painted black. I wanted to sing." And I was like, she's like, "Can you circle it back?" And I was like, "No, I can't. We're like too far into this." And so the fact that you got it in there, girl, I am so proud of you. That was good. Seamless.
Except then you called it out.
I know,
and
but
it's
it was
no
so
longer
good. It was so
seamless.
good. But everyone experienced it for the first time with us.
Okay, but I was
good.
genuinely wondering. It wasn't just to like get the plug in for me.
I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. Maybe by then
did he have
had
a stun gun?
Maybe.
Well,
maybe.
that
By
could be.
then he possibly could have had real guns. I don't know. I doubt he would have been able to get it. Who knows? I don't know. Now, a year later, he pled guilty to federal charges in Denise and Erin's cases. At his sentencing trial in March 2017, Denise and Erin spoke. Reflecting on that experience in the documentary, Denise said, "In that entire time in captivity, I was a body to him behind these goggles. I never saw him and he never saw me. And I knew that I was standing up there. I was going to turn to him and make him see me. And I stared right at him and I said his name, Matthew Muller. Now we meet face to face, eye to eye. I am Denise Huskins, the woman behind the blindfold." And I took myself back that day.
Oh my
I'm gonna
gosh.
cry. They're both amazing, but God, Denise is so strong, so fucking smart, so amazing. You have to watch the documentary, please watch
I'm
it.
going to.
Okay.
I wasn't because you were doing it.
But you should, because it's to hear her and Erin talk about it it's unbelievable.
The one on Netflix, right?
Yeah. American Nightmare. The judge.
I'm an American Nightmare. She's an American Beauty.
I didn't enjoy that one as much.
Sorry. Well, I did it last time too, but I have to. It's in my head.
Okay, goodbye. The judge called the crime heinous, atrocious, and horrible. Matthew was sentenced to a total of 40 years in prison for kidnap, robbery, and rape. He was not charged with the attempted rapes in Palo Alto or the Mountain View or the Peeping Tom incidents on Mare Island, but
No claims for insanity or like no mental assessment?
There was actually so much more it was almost 3 parts. There's so much more like strange circumstances. Because remember, he's a lawyer, so there was some weird stuff about like him representing himself.
Okay.
It was very, very, I decided that was when I texted you and said I just had to accept I couldn't give you every detail I read. That was exactly what I was writing about.
Kind of rude.
I know. And in part 3, no. But the Atavist, the online magazine, has an entire section on all of the happenings around his trial and sentencing and jail time. And I recommend that too. It's really, really good. Now, on a much happier note, 2 days after Denise and Aaron's statements at Matthew's sentencing, Aaron proposed to Denise.
Oh.
In a weird parallel, Matthew got married the day after his sentencing to a woman he had briefly dated in 2012, who he'd remained friends with.
Oh, no. Is she?
Very
your
weird.
bones are very loud.
They're so loud. Sorry, I keep trying to pick my arms
Is
up.
she one of those like prison hunters?
I don't know, because she already knew him. So
yeah, I know, but
really
she's
know.
like, oh, you're going to jail now. That's hot.
I don't. It was weird.
Gross.
It's weird. The Vallejo Police Department made no positive changes. In fact, lead detective Matt Mustard was awarded Officer of the Year in 2015, which is the year this happened.
Wow.
And promoted to sergeant in charge of the investigations division. Fuck you.
Wow.
In 2016, Denise and Aaron sued the city of Vallejo for defamation.
Yep.
During this case, a tip came in about the Vallejo City Chief of Police, Andrew Bidou. Bidou. B-I-D-O-U.
Bidou.
Andrew. According to an anonymous source, during the early press conference where they called Denise and Aaron liars, right when Denise returned alive, Andrew told Officer Park, who was the person speaking, to burn that bitch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Denise and Aaron settled out of court for $2.5 million.
Of course they did.
And it wasn't until their book, the one I read called Victim F, came out that police finally offered a public apology.
Wow.
Moving on, Aaron and Denise got married.
Yay.
And this one's going to give me goosebumps and maybe make me cry. On March 25th, 2020, 5 years to the day when Denise was released, they welcomed their daughter, Olivia.
Aww.
I'm going to cry. Then another little girl, Naomi.
Get those mommy hormones.
I know, it's so
under
bad. It's
control.
so bad. My eyes are watering right
Yes.
now. Talking in the documentary about his daughters, Aaron said, "More than anything, I just hope they grow up to be like their mom."
Oh my gosh. That's so sweet.
Again, if you didn't get this, I recommend watching the documentary.
Guys, watch the documentary.
You
read
have
the
to.
book too,
You have to.
then instant message Laura, and
Please.
she'll chat with you
Yeah, I will
about the rest
literally.
of the case. You know what you should do? I'm volunteering you for this.
Rewatch the documentary?
No,
Oh.
you should do a P-Boney episode on all of the court stuff and the weird things that happened.
Maybe you can help me.
That would be kind of fun.
It's not like they're not that weird. It's not. So Peabody might be good for it because it's not like that's why I didn't make it 3 parts. I mean, this is quite lengthy, but it's like it wasn't like meaty enough. It would have just been splitting.
Right.
But yes, so what I do like about actually every single thing that I read was maybe the online article was a little more focused on him, but most of it was about Aaron and Denise, not Matthew.
Right.
And although he's fascinating and so unwell, and actually I have more details, but he actually was very remorseful. Like once he got on, he basically was like, "I'm so sick."
Oh, once he was
like
treated.
really, really bad. And so the whole thing is just a tragedy.
Yeah.
And like, thank God they're alive and living a beautiful life. But like, yet other details, like she like couldn't work for a long time. I mean, just really awful.
Yeah.
But they were able to, I'm just going to give you all the details anyway.
Okay.
With the settlement money, Aaron was actually able to fulfill his dream of opening his own practice. And like, it's really like, they are just such amazing people. And I hope that I did it justice because they're just incredible people and an unbelievable story that's real. So
I think you did it justice, but I'm your co-host and I really like our podcast. So I don't know how much my opinion counts.
No,
but
it counts a lot to me.
I think that you killed it.
Thank you very much.
No pun intended.
And just one more thank you to Morgan H for getting me into this and suggesting this case. I really, like I said, I had no idea what I was getting into.
Ooh, and before I forget, you should watch the documentary.
American Nightmare.
I'm an American Nightmare.
If you're enjoying listening to Grimm,
Laura's not.
Make sure you're getting the most in between episodes. You can subscribe to our Patreon by searching Grim, a True Crime Podcast on the Patreon app or website. And then we'll have all of those amazing shout outs, even more of them probably next time. And depending on the tier, you can get access to monthly bonus episodes, which is what a P-Bony is, in case you're catching up.
Yep.
Or even our supremely awesome Discord server, which is so awesome.
It is awesome.
If you don't want the commitment, and again, no judgment here, we're now on Buy Me a Coffee. Visit buymeacoffee.com/grimcrimepodcast to contribute a one-time amount of your choosing. And thank you so, so much to those who already have it. It's just, you're so sweet with your messages every time. We love it.
Yes, and Laura has Celsius to show for it.
Yep. That's why I'm talking so fast. This could have been 3 hours, but instead I got it through on 3 times speed. Make sure you follow us on our socials so you can stay up to date and check out episode pictures and all of that. You can find us on Instagram at Grim Crime Podcast and on Facebook searching Grim, a True Crime Podcast. If you have a case suggestion like this one, and we love them, keep sending them, you can message us on any of those platforms or send us an email at grimcrimepodcast@gmail.com. Wherever you do listen, please rate us, or even better, leave a written review. Thank you for being here, and listen, learn, and stay alive until next time, because the future is grim.